brother. That's where we
Yeah,
at.
two more.
Yeah, I think two more. We good.
All right, let me call y'all. Is Dr. Barnes on?
No, yeah, if you can get her, that'd be great.
Okay,
All right.
calling in.
Yeah, hopefully Chris can join too. He's available. The only people that said they could not attend was Marshall and Meyer. Um, and hopefully, uh, and Izetta said she might be able to join, so hopefully she'll be able to jump on shortly. I'll send another reminder.
Dr. Barnes says she's going to join. I just got to get a number for her so she can call in. Is there a way to do that?
Yes, I can put that in the chat. Is that helpful?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll do that right now.
Great. One more. Let's see who else I can find.
Commissioner Barrett, maybe?
Great. Doing that next.
Meantime, I'll see if I can raise Commissioner Davidson.
The call-in number is in the chat, and I know that Commissioner Haley is currently on an airplane, which is why he is not here.
Thank you for that update. Appreciate you. Yeah, Commissioner Hughes.
Yeah, while we're waiting, I just wondered if I could ask a question about our bylaws. I believe we have them. I was trying to find them in my files. I can't put my hands on them right now. But I'm wondering if we don't have a provision in our bylaws presently that allows for like online voting, or not online, but by voting by email, that might be something we think about adding, because I know with a board that I staff, we have that provision just because it can be hard in an emergency situation to get board members together. So we might want to think about going forward, even if we don't find ourselves in the situation again, having some mechanism by which we could vote on something like this quickly and easily.
I agree. Thank you for that, Elizabeth. I agree with you wholeheartedly. That is what the Maryland State Arts Council does, which I'm on. We seemingly take all our votes via email, and I figure it's good enough for them and it's good enough for us. So I agree that we can look to add that to our bylaws. I'll scour through my emails to see if I can find that document. It has been a while since we created it initially. Certainly might be time for another look. All right, we got quorum.
Oh, this is Kristen McFarland.
Yeah.
I guess we can talk about it at another time, because I think we should have a larger discussion about voting by email in the context of the Open Meetings Act. That's something that we can talk about later, though.
Gotcha. Fair point. So I appreciate that. Okay, no, thank you, Stephanie, for joining us. Appreciate you. We know that this was short notice. We now have quorum, so I will call to order this special meeting of the Maryland Lynching, Truth and Reconciliation Commission. It is currently 6:18 p.m. Eastern. I think for the sake of time, I will just call out the commissioners that are on the call to establish quorum, starting with myself, Chair David Falconley, Vice Chair Charles Chavis. I see Commissioner Hughes, Commissioner Barnes, Commissioner Hall, Commissioner Creary, Commissioner Eaton Martinez, Commissioner Seward, Commissioner Wilson. And I think that gives us quorum. Yes, so I'm going to confirm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Up, and Commissioner Barrett. All right, so 8. Yes, we have quorum. We can proceed. So the reason for this special meeting is to consider whether the MLTRC pursues supplemental funding from the BJA, the Emmett Till Cold Case and Investigations Program. So what I will do is turn it over to Zanita and Sophie to see if there are any particular details that should be shared before we go into discussion and hopefully vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually just put into the chat the conditions that we received for BJA in terms of the offer to seek additional funding. So you'll see in the chat, it would be consistent with our 1-year extension request, which we actually had already submitted, and to support the work of our hearings, as well as, and I think we talked about this, some areas that they would be supportive of, or I think that they would want to see in our request for additional funding would be expanding efforts to bring awareness to upcoming hearings, which is consistent with, I know, some of the concerns that commissioners had raised. And then in addition to supporting the regional hearings, which is what the bulk of the budget actually does, this last component, facilitating peer-to-peer learning with other justice agencies, and that's really, recipients of funding, BJA funding, or others who are looking to apply for similar type of funding. We already participate in BJA events to talk about the work that we do. So budgeting for some travel to attend different sub-recipients or recipients of federal funding or attending conferences is something that would be easy for us to include. And I think we had initially included a small portion of our budget for this purpose. So all of the minimal conditions that they are asking us for are consistent with our current grant. The only thing that's potentially new is maybe focusing on bringing awareness to regional hearings, but even that is consistent with previous discussions. It also says that we're encouraged to add any other bases for additional grant funding if we had other areas that we would want to seek additional funding for, like additional funding for our project manager position. So the bases for the additional funding are consistent with the grant. The only question is, I think that had come up before, is where we are with the grant expenditures. I hope most of you, remember the presentation I did back in January of the nearly $300,000 that we were awarded. We've only spent or encumbered about a third of that. And so we've got a lot still to play with. And so, the question is, do we think even with the year extension, there is enough additional activity that currently can't be funded under the grant. And I did recirculate that budget summary just now, so it should be at the top of your emails, whether there's enough additional activity that we don't have funding for that would make seeking additional funds reasonable.
Thank you, Zanita, for that rundown. So I think right now is, oh yes, Commissioner Career.
Just off the top of my head, and I'm not, I just pulled up the report, but it seems to me that, let's get an advertising budget. Let's saturate, local media, national media when we're getting ready to have a hearing, so that it's not just going on public radio, but it's going on commercial radio. Hey, this is happening. I think that might be one way we could spend a decent chunk of change, but then also raise the profile. Let's buy an ad in the Baltimore Sun. I mean, ideally, we should be asking them to comp us one, but why don't we, do something like that, and get something in the local papers as well. I think it would be, ideally, if we still have the Northern Eastern Shore, let's put some ads in the papers in Denton and Easton and Maryland geography is failing me right now because I'm still learning a new state right now. But let's use the money. Let's raise the profile and get people it's like seeing this and hearing about this.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Nick as well. But I think if we're able to do that, that would be great. To hire a firm to be able to take care of the comms and marketing needs would be great and an easy way to spend the funds. I also think bringing in some expert scholars and practitioners to assist with the report writing would be great. Someone with the law background, cold case background, and legal background to be able to really guide and author the report consistent with other state and local reports based on reparations and redress. I know there's a network of scholars and practitioners who are already doing this work, and I think if we're able to put an RFP out for that, it would lighten the load in terms of the writing commitment and the synthesis piece regarding the final product that we have to deliver. Those are just my thoughts.
I agree that the number one thing that stands out is PR. Just was in communication with someone who has volunteered their time to help us with the messaging of the commission, and in her own research and exploration of options, that was the number one piece of advice that came back to her was you need a professional PR person. So I think we should take the hint and get a professional PR person. One of the things that is also I would like to explore. Now, of course, this is where council comes in to let us know if this is even possible. We have talked about the real issue of workload for many of us, be we faculty or any other type of professional. Is there a way, not necessarily to compensate us directly, but to offset the responsibilities to our institutions that we represent, at least, in order to do this work? I would love to explore that to whatever that is possible, because we want to provide incentive or just better support for people to do this, because we know we're all doing this of our own volition on volunteer time. This is a heavy lift. So any way that we can strengthen this necessary work from us commissioners, I'd like to pursue that. I think we can be very honest with ourselves and say that that would be very helpful. Additionally, anything that, seeing that so much of our funding is tied up in obviously getting the hearing sessions done, what supports us getting to that point? So obviously expansion of research, as Charles said, expansion of writing, even up to the hearing sessions and afterwards would be what I'd like to explore. And then also the continuation of relationships and opportunities in regions of Maryland that we've already done hearing sessions for. So I'm thinking about Allegheny County, which seems like forever ago, right? Making sure we maintain some type of work and some type of effort even after the hearing sessions are done. Obviously, Lower Eastern Shore, which we've already done. We don't want it to feel like a one-hit quit. We wanted the hearing sessions to feel like the beginning of some long-term action, towards justice and towards truth and healing and all of that kind of stuff. So anything that could support the after hearing session work in the different regions is something I'd also like to pursue as well.
I did put in the chat, and I want to make sure everyone sees that the time frame that they've given us to submit is very, very tight. So whatever, this body decides to go after, somebody has to commit to drafting a brief narrative explanation of exactly, what the additional services we'd be seeking to procure with the grant monies are, and an explanation of how we came to the estimate of the budget. So, an hourly rate based on an estimate of the number of hours of work that we think would be appropriate to provide whatever service, assuming, that it's all largely people power, no additional like equipment or anything else that we'd be looking to fund. So that we have to submit it before the end of next week. And so I think we would need that narrative by Monday at the latest, so we could start uploading into the federal grant system and definitely have it in by Thursday. So I don't think this is the time to do like pie in the sky, 1,000 different things. I think, if you want to go for something, agree on maybe 2 to 3 things, whatever you think, somebody has the capacity to actually prepare a grant submission. Nothing as thorough as our initial submission, but we do need some content to support the ask.
So, Zanita, were any of the things that we just mentioned as our interests off the table?
I don't think so. I mean, we've added additional money for research. We still have a good amount of money for research. We upped the costs. If you look at the budget that I circulate, we all upped the costs for the report writing. Maybe somebody would look at that and say, hey, I just did this and it costs twice as that, and so that would be a basis to double the cost that we have associated. But we would need to explain. But we don't have anything for the media campaign, so I think that's appropriate. If we wanted to increase the funding for the project manager role, which is so crucial to the completion of the public hearings, I think that's appropriate. I would just pick just a few things that were critically important and we thought we could actually put together a narrative and document the costs for within a few days.
So with that in mind, and I think the timeline is obviously a critical part of this, more money for project manager, a PR position, and what would number 3 be? What are people thinking about number 3? Because I'm Charles, I'm with you on the course release or any type of release that we can do. I wonder if that would be easier to try to strive for through
Governor's office.
state, through state funding, state funding as opposed to federal funding. That's the only reason I would propose that.
I agree. I think
Okay.
having an expert in terms of the redress and the report, just an expert to help and guide us would be helpful for the commission as another position. If we're looking at spending the money, I think we can create an additional position. It's different from the project manager. It specifically focuses on synthesizing and pulling together everything for the report. And this would be someone who potentially would be an attorney or have a background in this and working on redress, reparation struggles, and report writing. Those are the things. That's a position I think we definitely need at this time. That would be an easy description to write and would be something that I think would be justifiable. as well. But those are just my recommendations. That as a third one, another position.
So basically, so is it? It's not just the writing, but it's more so, like you said, the synthesis, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
I think what we call it.
Or, yeah,
Uh,
why don't we say, well, I don't want to say a reparations expert, but somebody who has experience, gathering,
human rights researcher.
yeah, human rights researcher. Yeah, we'll call it that, and then we get somebody, who's either familiar with what happened out in California or
Yep.
San Francisco or Evanston or the Canadian, TRC that they did. Somebody, who's got that kind of pedigree, who'd be able to help us, sort of gather and sort and prepare for the writing.
Correct. The human rights consultant is what I
Yes.
put down. Okay. So, but also, David, in terms of the Commissioner Fakunle, in terms of the um, PR person, could we not hire a firm to do this, or is that one? Am I conflating two of the same thing?
Well, I'm sure, obviously, council will have the best way to go about getting that position. I mean, I'm fine with whoever it is as long as they can do the job, be it a firm or be an individual PR consultant, right? But we will obviously want them to do more than consult. We would actually want them to do it. So that would be the main thing we'd want to make clear. So I'm fine with whatever helps us get the best person or persons for the job.
I think we should go with the firm, to be quite honest, because we don't want to go with a private contractor or independent contractor they would be drafting press releases and putting things out there, but it wouldn't necessarily having the weight to like get hits and actually get out there is something different. I think I've seen more success with specific PR firms that can get us traction in terms of the media. So I would recommend that, and that'll eat up a lot of the funds, but I think that would something that would be important as well.
I guess my question on that would be, if we're talking about procurement and procuring services, what's going to be the faster, more expedient way to go about doing that? Just given the procurement process, would it be faster to hire, a contractor or to hire a firm?
Who put? I know Omar didn't just put. Yes, exactly, Omar. There are some that we can look into. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely want a black PR.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. My BIPOC. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, Commissioner Hughes.
Yeah, I'll just say, if the procurement is under $50,000, then you have more flexible procurement rules for the state than if it's over 50,000. So although procurement can be onerous, if it's under 50,000, it's quite a bit easier.
Okay, well, it sounds like we have a budget line item for PR, ballpark at about $45,000 or 48.5 or something like that.
Yeah, I would say let's get it as close to 50,000 without being over 50,000, right? If it's gonna expedite the process.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it sounds like our three would be PR, marketing and communications, how we want to put that. A human rights consultant, and what was our number three?
Additional money for the project
Additional money for the project manager. Yes. Okay. I'm gonna put that in the chat. All right.
The project manager is easy because that's an hourly rate, and we'd be, just basically taking it full time through the end of the existence of the commission, June 2026. But for the human rights researcher and the marketing and communication services, we need someone to describe the work that they would do and then the basis for whatever estimate. If you're thinking it'll be about 50,000, what is that based on? What is it going to include? Someone needs to put that together.
Okay, great. Got it. So I'll take care of the human rights consultant.
All right. Those are 3. Okay. Uh, would anybody be able to work on the marketing and communications manager, for lack of a better word, description? Any volunteers?
I'm extremely reluctant to do so, just, given that I'm just, sort of in week 2 of a new job here. But let me see, because again, I don't know nothing about PR firms, but I can at least kind of start looking for folks, and again, this is going to be something we're going to have to do in fairly short order. So,
Yeah, I can. I mean, I can. Writing about what they'd have to do is not hard. I just don't know how much they charge.
Yeah.
That's my main. That would be my main issue with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
if you-
tell you what,
Oh.
I can try to do some research on PR firms. It's like what they charge. If you're willing to write it up.
Zanita, just to calm my brain, how much would we need for a write up?
I think the reader has to be able to understand what it is exactly that we would be seeking to procure and how it relates to the work of the commission. So, I mean, like, I don't think you need more than a page per item. I mean, they gave us a short turnaround, so they're not expecting a treatise.
Take people word. All right, sounds good. Okay, I can work with that.
Was there any language in any previous grants that might be able to contribute to a narrative? And I'm happy to help with it. I just, in full disclosure, I had RSV that I'm still recovering from, so I'm behind on just about everything, and I'm still experiencing a lot of fatigue. So I don't want to commit to something that I can't accomplish, if that makes sense.
No, that's very fair, and I appreciate your openness with sharing that. So that's totally fine. I can take a crack at explaining this position and obviously explaining the relevance. Again, the main thing for me would be how much do they charge and getting a good idea of justifying the budget. But that is something I'm try to be realistic myself. Check my calendar.
Depending on whom we get the quote from for it, they may actually have language that we could
That's
just
true.
sort of, I don't want to say plop in, but that we could use as a base to be able to associate with our work.
Right.
So I would say it, depending on how quickly we can identify someone to give us a quote. I'm Googling right now PR firms like Able Communications, and I have no idea who they are. They're just the first one that popped up on Google. That might be, something to be able to sort of say, okay, let's reach out and get a narrative and an estimate from like 2 or 3 different places, and then whichever makes the most sense financially, but also in what they envision, which would then become the narrative itself. So I'm happy to help on all that. I just don't want to necessarily commit to orchestrating it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine.
Yeah,
And go ahead, Charles.
no, I was gonna say I can get us a list of BIPOC PR firms, but I can do that. So that might help us out because I think the biggest piece is we need to get it may cost more than 50, and we got to be able to take our time and do what we got to do if it's necessary. So I think we need to figure that out. Or
Absolutely.
So but I'll do that.
Okay. No, that sounds and any writing that I would do would be more about its relevance to the commission. Wouldn't just be a general overview of what they would do, but more so here's why we need it and here's what we're specifically looking for from them. So that's something I can start working on tomorrow. And Stephanie, I can share that with you. I'll share that with everybody because again, it's kind of an all hands on deck type situation. So any feedback that people want to provide would be appreciated.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm happy to help and dive in, especially on narratives. I just don't want to mislead anybody on my capacity.
Right. No, that's fair. I appreciate that thoughtfulness. Okay. Again, being mindful of time. So it sounds like we have our three. I'll just say them out loud to make sure we're all on the same page. So yes, we do want to, and we'll take an official vote, but it sounds like we are leaning towards pursuing the supplemental funding, specifically for additional funding for the project manager position, to create a marketing and communications, we'll just say management position or consulting position, and then to also bring on a human rights consultant that will synthesize our work for implementation. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay.
So moved, second, whatever.
All right, I gotta do it official. All right, here we go. All right. So I move that we pursue additional supplemental funding from BJA through their Emmett Till cold case and investigations program, specifically to apply for additional funding for the project manager position, to create a marketing and communications position, and to create a human rights consultancy position in carrying out the mission of the MLTRC. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? So moved. All right, there it is.
All right, I have to jump back into my other meeting. Sorry, and thanks everyone.
No, do your thing. Do your thing. No, I appreciate everybody. Again, jumping on, making sure that this could happen on a short notice. We did it in under an hour. That's great. Technically, it was more like 30 minutes, which was awesome. So that's all I got. We will follow up as necessary through email. Yes, Commissioner Greer.
Dr. Chair, Commissioner Barnes has a raised hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Commissioner Barnes. I think she did it. That might have been for the vote. Was that okay? That might have been for the vote. Okay. Are there any final questions, thoughts before we adjourn the meeting? Okay, hearing none, seeing none. Well, then I move for this special meeting to be adjourned.
Second.
All right, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right. Any opposed? Any abstain? All right. Thank you all very much. I appreciate your timeliness and your dedication, and we will be in touch soon. Have a good night and afternoon.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
You're welcome. Bye.